Shalom Aleichem Internet, my name is Rabbi Sander Gajzinski, and here is the weekly Torah Bite. This week's Torah portion is Parshat Pikudei, and it is the very last Torah portion in the book of Exodus. And yet, one glaringly obvious thing in this Torah portion, along with its sister Torah portion, the Torah portion that preceded it, Parshat Vayakel, is that it is almost word for word a repetition of Torah portions that we had 3 and 4 weeks ago, the Torah portions of Teruma and Tetzaveh. Because the Torah portions of Teruma and Tetzaveh was the chronicle of God commanding Moses in every last detail how to build the tabernacle, all the vessels needed in it, and the vestments, the clothing of the priests, the Kohanim that would serve in the tabernacle. And then again in this week's Torah portion and the Torah portion before it, we have every one of those details repeated in the context of, and the Jewish people did as God commanded them, and they did this, and they did this, and they did this, and they did that, and etc., reiterating every detail that we already have stated in Teruma and Tetzaveh. Now, while in our own life, redundancy is quite a common aspect of human nature, God is never redundant. We learn entire volumes of commentary and information of Jewish law from an extra letter found in the Torah. And here, not only do we have an extra letter, or an extra word, or an extra verse, we have 2 completely extra Torah portions. We could have just ended off the last Torah, the Torah portion of Tetzaveh 3 weeks ago with the words, and the Jewish people did as God commanded, as we say throughout the Torah. Why is it that over here, it does not suffice with that one line saying that the Jewish people did all the details that we have just discussed? And that it actually has to rather reiterate all those details again, chronicling the actual fruition of God's commands. The message actually is as follows. Were we to suffice with just relaying the details in the command context, when God commanded Moses, then we would have understood the tabernacle through the context of the infinite God commanding the nearly angelic prophet Moses at the peak of Mount Sinai, which was the portal to heaven, which would have given us a sense that the tabernacle and the aura surrounding it is something very lofty, very spiritual, nigh unattainable, beyond our reach. The Torah does not suffice with the story in that fashion, or that context. Rather, the Torah then follows and tells the story of how physical beings, using physical materials, created said tabernacle. And every detail is important, because this is an entirely different story. This is not a story of an infinite God to a prophet in a place nigh heaven. This is a story of physical beings, using physical materials, creating an abode for God in this physical world. To us, the message is that a central aspect of Judaism is not to escape into loftiness and holiness and spirituality and see that my responsibilities have been fulfilled with that, but rather to take all that spirituality and all that holiness that I'm otherwise connected with and to bring it into this world, to imbue it and to infuse the physical structures that I am creating with that holiness, with that spirituality. That is when the job is done. That is when I have completed my mission. And in a more practical sense, the lesson is an obvious one to each and every one of us in our lives. We all have lofty ideas, great aspirations, plans. And this message of this Torah portion is, that's all fine and dandy. But it's about getting the job done. It's about actually bringing it into fruition. And so that is why this is the Torah portion that ends off the entire book of Exodus, the book in which the Jewish people were freed from Egypt and were made God's people. You want to know what, in a certain sense, brings to the culmination of this opening chapter of the Jewish people becoming God's people? Not when they attain great lofty heights, for example, when they're standing at Mount Sinai, but when they actually go about and build in this physical world, using materials found in this physical world, an abode for God. And that is something that each and every one of us can do in our own way. Because One would think the tabernacle, that is beyond me. That is spirituality, that is holiness, that is divinity. That's not the stuff I traffic in. But when the message is taking a physical object in this physical world, in your physical surroundings, and doing something with a divine purpose, so that when I eat something, I make a blessing over it and I use the strength that that food gives me to be a better person and to bring good to the world. When I work in my daily pursuits and I give a certain amount of my salary to charity so that I've elevated my entire work week because I have taken from what this work week has produced and given it to charity. That is the core of Judaism. That is building a tabernacle for God in this physical world. And that is the culmination of the opening chapter of becoming God's people. So I wish you a Shabbat Shalom. And this Shabbat, stock up on all that holiness and all that spirituality and all that loftiness. And then take it and go into the world following Shabbat and embed it in the physical, in the material, in the practical. And make this world a holier place. Shabbat Shalom.